Saddest Night Out, episode 476, Thursday, 19th of December. The last time I really felt like I was on a roll was in 2019. I was hosting open mic nights, doing interviews for the podcast, and had started putting on my own night of live music once a month, and I would play at these nights as well. At first, I'd play my own music solo. I think I was the opening act, maybe I was the headliner, but I would just play my music by myself, maybe with a backing track. But I ended up playing my own music with a full band for the first time. I forget which month that was, maybe August. I know that in the October month, I played in all of the other bands as well as my own. I think I played the drums for all the other bands and then played guitar and sang for my own band as well. And December was the last month when I hosted one of those nights. After December 2019, I felt burnt out and took a break, thinking I would eventually get back to it. But then the pandemic happened, and I realized that what I had taken for granted had now been taken away, possibly for good. That behavior of mine is not an anomaly, but a pattern, and one that I want to break, which is part of the reason I've been away from here for a while. The joke being that, in stepping away, I think I'm actually in danger of doing it again. Once again, I was on a bit of a roll with the live streams and the podcast and the occasional viral video. Once again, I stepped away thinking that I could come back when I'm ready. And once again, it looks like that option might be taken away with TikTok being banned. It's being banned in the US, not the UK, but who knows what the knock-on effects might be. In general, the internet doesn't feel as fun as it used to be. The world doesn't feel as fun as it used to be. I don't feel as fun as I used to be. But I don't know if deep down I've ever really been fun. I think I've just been really good at guessing what would be perceived as fun and performing that, depending on the audience. And because I think I'm performing, the muscle or energy or effort that is needed to do that eventually runs out, and then I end up ghosting everyone. I don't think this is the first time I've said all this on this podcast either. Like I said, it's not an anomaly, it's a pattern. Performing takes effort, performing takes energy. When you are doing it out of passion and enthusiasm, then it can feel positive and productive. It takes effort and energy to do it, but you gain some energy from doing it, which makes you want to do it again, and it becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. I think I do that sometimes, but I also do it out of fear. It's less about exhibiting and broadcasting something, and more about masking and hiding instead. It isn't deliberate or conscious, but it can easily be a default. And from that position, it becomes a gateway for burnout. It's not something that's regenerating where it takes energy to perform, but the performing gives you energy and it keeps going back and forth. In this case, you feel like you're chipping away at something and there's only so much of it that can be chipped away. So eventually, instead of winding down or having ebbs and flows, you just slam on the brakes and eject and disappear from everyone and everything. This doesn't excuse me ignoring your DMs or not going live or posting, etc., but hopefully it helps to explain it. I do want to talk to you. I have to remind myself that I'm someone worth talking to. And the crowd goes mild. That's a little bit about the past, a little bit down. Let's try and pick things up a bit and talk about the future. For starters, I have another song on Spotify. Loads of Japanese bands now has more than one song on Spotify. I also have a picture and a bio, and I'll be adding playlists too. I don't think anyone has streamed this second song yet. You might be the first. I don't know if there's a way for you to prove you're the first, but if you do listen to it, I'd love to know what you think or that you're listening. Feel free to reach out to me in all the usual ways. He says after just admitting he hasn't replied to DMs, etc. Moving on. I want to treat Spotify as more of a social media space. I'm going to make podcast episodes that can act as introductions for the playlist that I'll put on my artist page. And the bio that I have on there will change as well. Because I want to talk to you. And I want to find ways to talk to you that might be unexpected and interesting. So stay tuned to the artist page of Loads of Japanese Bands, as well as the podcast that you're already doing. All 7 of you that are currently following me on Spotify. According to Spotify, I have 7 monthly listeners, and my top cities tell me that I have 1 listener in Ilford, UK, 1 in Manchester, 1 in Dublin, Ireland, 1 in Stockton-on-Tees, 1 in Wandsworth, 1 in Blackpool, one in Middlesbrough, one in Southend-on-Sea, and one in Pilsen, Czech Republic. That is, I think, 9 listeners total. If you are any of those people, if there's any way you can prove you're one of those people, I don't know. But if you're any of those people, please do say hi. This is something I really want to focus on, to turn this quote-unquote performance into less of a subtractive thing and more of a positive thing. If I know who I'm talking to, maybe I can step out of the anxiety and stressful space and more into, let me talk to the usual crowd, so to speak, if that makes sense. Anyway, question, is there an Apple Music version of Spotify for artists? And second question, I have 2 songs, and I intend to add more songs to the Midnight album. Both of these songs are under the album Midnight, so I want to add a 3rd, 4th, 5th song, etc. Is there a way to do that without having to first remove the songs that are already there? That is something I'll be trying to figure out, but if you already know how to, please do let me know. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I do still want to play Glastonbury next year. Saddest Nights at Glasgow 2025 is still on the vision board. I want to do all the festivals, all the tours, play a sold-out London show, have an actual full band rehearsal again. The dreams and ambitions are still there. But before all that, I want to get better at talking to you. A little less performance, a little less anxiety and stress, and a little more, wouldn't it be cool if? So, forgive me if I'm not the most receptive to DMs, etc. Whatever energy I might lack in those spaces, I'll try to make up for it here. And as an aside, this is why the Patreon is only £1 a month, by the way. I am not a professional influencer giving you, 2 YouTube videos a day or a week and posting across all socials and hosting a private Discord or paid live streams and merchandise and private videos for people who pay more, etc., etc. I'm just a person with some interests and ideas. I'm not built like the needle drop, etc. And I have a lot of respect for folks that can and have made that their full-time gig. But I will try to show up for you in the best way I can. I'm really grateful that you're here in whatever capacity that is for you. Podcasts, live streams, TikTok, YouTube, Patreon, actual live gigs someday, or just listening to the music. Thank you for being here. Now, whilst I work to make me more fun, and this place more fun, in a way that makes sense and is sustainable, I want 2025 to be a fun year. I want 2025 to be a turning point. I basically want Brat, but not Brat, which is fitting, considering the name of the Brat remix album. Brat and Charlie XCX's whole campaign has shown me it's possible for an idea to really pierce through pop culture and become inescapable. It's shown me that, music aside, there's an appetite and an audience. That's a start. It's been 6 years since my last live shows that I mentioned at the start of this episode, but 2025 is the year Saddest Night Out goes beyond the podcast. I'll still very much use the podcast. This feels like a home base. And it seems like it somewhat transcends other social media platforms. Twitter, Instagram, Threads, whatever. Those might come and go, but hopefully this connection will remain. So keep your eyes peeled on this Loads of Japanese Bands artist page as well, and this podcast, wherever you find it. In fact, I've just taken a little detour from writing these notes to find out how to get the podcast back on YouTube as well. So hopefully you'll find new episodes on there too, and hello if you're finding this episode on there. There might be some tangent episodes, some side quest sojourns, if you will, where I basically try to recreate the music plus talk feature that Spotify used to have. Essentially, some episodes will be a chance for me to talk about a playlist that I will put on my artist page. I'll try to make it clear in the titles of the episodes, and hopefully it won't be too jarring. In fact, I've just had a thought. I might make a playlist of episodes and put that on the artist page as well. I did a bunch of episodes where I talk about my personal history with artists, like LCD Soundsystem, The Strokes, Block Party. So I might gather all of those episodes, put them in a playlist, put that playlist on the artist page. That's the kind of headspace I'm in when it comes to how to use Spotify. Beyond just, I've got a new song, go stream it, pre-save it, etc. I don't think I'll ever have an opportunity to pre-save because I tend to be a bit spontaneous. Once I put a song up, I just put it up. I don't put it up with a release date for 2 months from now. I just put it up and then we'll talk about it afterwards. But before I start getting wrapped up in all of the ideas about all of the things, I don't want to lose sight of what's at the heart of all this, and that's talking to you. Besides me talking to you, there's also you folks talking to each other. I might have started whatever this is and whatever it will be, but I am still just a start. So please do get in the comments either on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or TikTok, or Instagram, or Twitter. I think that's as far as I can stretch right now. I don't see myself getting on Twitch or Discord or Lemon8, which I'm learning is something of a TikTok imitation. It's lemon with the number 8. Maybe some of the playlists I have on my artist page will be joint efforts with you folks. For instance, if you've listened to the 2 songs that I have on Spotify, what other songs do they remind you of? That right there could be a playlist that I put on my artist page, where it's a bunch of songs chosen by you folks that you say are similar to what you hear in my music. But I don't want to run before I can walk, because I'm not that social in real life. I can get a little overexcited whenever something does scratch that social itch. I call it golden retriever energy, where a pet dog might start running around a lot when there are guests in the home. So let me just start by saying hello again. Particularly if you are my one listener in one of the cities I've mentioned. I'd love to find some way to know, within, privacy permitting, etc., who those folks are. That's why I say screenshot my artist page and tag me in it. Instead of a direct DM, it's a connection that respects the distance. You know what I mean? I don't want it to become too invasive. But it would be cool to have some idea of who the people are listening to me at this early stage when it's just a handful or 2. I've said in my artist bio that you should tag me in a screenshot of my artist page so that I know you're here and when you got here. The best way to mark your spot as having been here from the early days is to join the £1 a month Patreon on the website, patreon.com/saddest night out. I don't know if you can still join it through the app. I think it's better to do it through the website if you wish to do so. Anyway, I think that will do for now. Thank you again. I'll see you around. And the code word for this episode can be slán, which is Irish for goodbye. You can look up how to spell it. Oh, and I tend to do a question on each episode as well. So the question I'll do this time, I don't know if I've done it before, but if you could only listen to music from one decade in the past, if you could only listen to music from the 60s, only from the 70s, only from the 80s, etc., which decade would you choose and why? Maybe I've done that question before. I can't be bothered to look it up. Anyway, if you could only listen to music from one decade from the past, which decade would you choose? Feel free to answer that in the comments on whichever platform you're listening. Hopefully I'll find them. Otherwise, thank you for still listening. I'll catch you on the next one. Until then, take care.